Hello, my name is Debbie Boone, and I want to welcome you to my podcast, The Bend, where we explore how successful people navigated the path and emerged in a better place when life threw them an unexpected twist. It's inspired by one of my favorite sayings: the bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the curve. These conversations will hopefully help you and inspire you to embrace your personal bend and to flourish. I hope you enjoy it, and if you need help with your own personal navigation and you're in veterinary medicine, please feel free to reach out to me at Debbie Boone 2 Manage Vets Consulting. Enjoy the bend and be inspired by our wonderful guest. Welcome.
All right, well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to The Bend. Today, my guest is Cheyanne Flerx. Cheyanne is a former veterinary assistant turned marketing maven. She's the founder of HashWag Marketing Agency and serves as a social media marketing consultant to veterinary professionals and brands. Her passion is to empower other vet med professionals who desire a career in marketing within the industry. So hi, Cheyanne, and thanks so much for joining me today on The Bend. We met each other actually on social media.
Yeah.
I guess back when you were you were still working in practice when we met as their social media marketing person. And I was in the Snout Squad with you and Danielle. And I had become overwhelmed with trying to do my own marketing, and so I just threw it out there. Hey, anybody want to do marketing for me? And Cheyanne goes, hey, me, I will. I went, yay. And we've been working together ever since, and so it's been a blessing to me, absolutely, because she is a marketing maven for sure. And then were you still working in practice when we started together, and then you left, right?
Yeah, I was working part-time.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, how you switched from working in animal hospitals. Now, you also have Bassets, and so you were showing dogs and started out there. But let's talk a little bit about kind of what your goal was in life when you said, okay, here's what I want to be when I grow up. Where did you start?
Well, the interesting thing is that I wanted to be an artist for the longest time. But when I entered high school, I was like, okay, I realized I wasn't the greatest at drawing or any artistic ability in the traditional sense, right? So I was encouraged to take on this internship at the time, my vet's office. And so I was brought on as basically a kennel attendant, cleaning up, doing some janitorial duties and helping load rooms. So a little mix of assistant and kennel assistant. But I realized I really liked working with animals in that sense. So when I had the opportunity, I did some more pet sitting. So that's kind of how the turn from going from the artistic route to vet med. But when I entered high school, I was encouraged to pursue veterinary college. So,
so you used that artistic ability when you got into the hospital to start to do some of their social media stuff. How did that come about?
So, short story is that basically I was hired on as a veterinary assistant, and they're like, "Oh, you're a millennial. Can you do our Facebook page?" And the funny thing is that what people don't know about me is that I only had a Facebook page for probably about a year or two at that point. So I was like, okay, sure, I'll do some research.
Well, I can tell you from working with you, you are a very organized person. And research in finding out all these little details about the stats and the back end of this social media stuff are really up your alley. And I confess I'm really good at creating content and a lot of chatter, but I don't want to study the backside of it. So I don't know if what I put out was any good. I don't know if it got any reactions. I don't know any of that, so I just threw it out there. And Cheyanne, thank goodness you straightened me out. And thinking about how you got to be the social media maven in your practice that you had just not had a Facebook page, but for about a year, and they wanted you to start to develop a website. So how did that play out? I mean, you really had to research how to do this new job that they had given you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it was very, when I had time to do it too. So maybe like 2 or 3 hours a week I was working on the marketing, but, knowing me, I wanted to do the best job to impress them because new on the job, I want to do my best. But I just started doing research on, basically I just Googled veterinary marketing and doing all this random stuff. And I stumbled upon Danielle in Snout School on Pinterest of all things. And I sent her an email asking for advice and just went crazy from there.
Yeah, I met Danielle the same way. I think she had just started Snout Squad. She was still working in her dad's practice in Connecticut, and I was teaching the Patterson classes and happened to be in her neck of the woods. And so we laugh when we tell this story. I reached out to her and I said, "Hey, Danielle, do you want to go to dinner?" And she said, "Oh, yeah, that'd be great." So I was, maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes from her. So she calls me up and she says, "Debbie, I can't come to dinner last night." I said, "Why?" She said, "There was a bat in my room in the night, and she let it out the window instead of capturing it. And so she had to go take post-exposure rabies vaccine. And she says, "I feel like I've been stung by yellow jackets to my butt. I can't sit down for dinner." So I said, "Oh my God, that's fine." So the next day, we actually managed to have dinner together after the rabies bat incident, and we've been connected ever since. And so that's really, like I said, that's the same thing. I mean, she's done such a good job with social media training for veterinary hospitals and making it efficient and not so costly, I think, too.
Yeah.
Because you can waste a whole lot of money if you don't know what you're doing. You know,
Absolutely.
doing social media. Yeah. So tell me how life threw you a curveball, because this is all about that bend in the road.
Absolutely. So after I had been working at the clinic for probably about a year or two, I was pursuing my bachelor's in natural science and mathematics, getting ready to go to vet school. That was kind of the goal in mind. But after working for a little bit there, I realized I don't think being a doctor is cut out for me. I mean, I love and respect all the DVMs out there, but just the stress of it, I think, was just a little overwhelming for me at that point. So I finished my bachelor's and I got all the electives I could in business and marketing and all of that. And so I got my bachelor's and I realized I really, really loved marketing after doing it a while for the practice, because I went from just managing their Facebook page to building out a whole bunch of other systems and processes and implementing a whole bunch. So when I graduated, I went to my practice owner and practice manager and asked, "Hey, can I do this as a majority of my job?" At that point, I was still a veterinary assistant doing part-time marketing, but they're like, "Yeah, sure." So I moved into that position, more so marketing manager and a little less veterinary assistant tasks. But after going through that for a year, I realized I wanted to do so much more. And I wanted to go even further with marketing. And my practice owner at the time wasn't quite ready for that change. So I started pursuing some more freelancing to see if that's really the direction I wanted to go, get more experience in marketing outside of the clinic. And it just kind of grew from there. And that's how we met.
It is. Yeah. Now we started working together, like I said, when you were still just kind of doing this exploration, I think. But then you gathered enough clients to start your own company. So what was the scariest part of just taking that leap and going, "You know what, I'm going for it"?
Yeah, I think it was to the point where I was really feeling unmotivated at my current position. And I was like, okay, I've got enough clients to support me. Let's do it. And so it was that point where I turned in my notice and I went back to freelancing because before I owned my own pet sitting business. So I had lived from earning my own income without an employer, going back to employer and then going back. So it was just that fear of the unknown, like, oh, okay, I have a couple clients, yes, but it's how long is that going to sustain me? So just the fear of the unknown, really.
So when you were deciding to take that leap from being in the veterinary practice and kind of there's security there, right? Because you knew you were going to get a
Exactly.
paycheck.
Yeah.
To going out here and saying, I'm going to start my own business. I have a couple of clients, but that's not enough to feed me. How did you, what were your thoughts there? I mean, do you think, well, if I had more available time, I could market myself better, or I'll use the network I have, or what was your thought process moving forward as a marketer, marketing yourself?
Yeah. So really everything once I left the practice fell into place. I was just talking to Danielle the other day that it's been 1 year since I left practice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it feels like I've been doing this forever, but it really, once word got out that I wasn't in practice anymore and I was looking to do business, bring on more clients, I mean, opportunities just came to me. And I think it really contributes to wonderful people like you and Danielle who are like, hey, if you need help, I know someone.
Here she is.
Yeah.
Here she is. Yes.
Here.
Yes.
And I was really active in the Snout School group. And I think that really elevated my presence in the field as well, because there's a lot of practice owners, other social media managers, and practice owners who are in there active asking questions. So I was just in there sharing my knowledge and helping them out.
Well, I think that's an important thing to do, and it's something that I've always done freely is just share information. And you don't have to get paid for everything that you do. Sometimes you can just be a presence in a community and become that expert, and then people will follow up because you've given them some useful information, and they are willing to connect with you further and do a little bit more. And I guess that's the marketing thing, right? Is just put yourself out there. So what was the greatest challenges kind of making this change in your path? What did you have to overcome?
I think just the fear of putting myself out there. I think a lot of freelancers feel that same way. But just being confident in the skills that I do have, but being bold enough to pursue more education. I've always of the mindset of you're never done learning and growing. You can always improve. Even if you think know you've done a great job, there's always room for improvement.
Well, and you're in a field, I guess we all are, that is changing like daily. It's like lightning strikes. I mean, it moves so fast. And one of the reasons that I knew that I needed to engage a social media person myself, because I couldn't keep up with how much it had changed, and the algorithms changing, and looking at the way that posts should be presented. And obviously, I'm a lifetime learner. You can see the bookcases behind me, and this is that's just part of it. I have two Nooks, and they have stuff on them too. And so, when I found out you put 2,500 books on a Nook, I got very excited. I am a book geek and a constant reader. But one of the things that you said is I had to put myself out there, and I think that's one of the things that I see a lot of people are reluctant to just step forward into the unknown, or just walk up to a stranger. And it's something that I had to learn myself. I am a networker, as you know, because I hauled you all around the VMS conference.
Got my steps in that day.
Poor Cheyanne, she met more people that day than she probably met in her whole life. Got me dragging her around.
I enjoyed it.
But it's just learning how to step up into, say, hey, you know what, I'm really interested in what you do. Tell me about you. Tell me about yourself. And people are more than willing to do that. And then, if there's reciprocity there. And then just being able to put people together. I mean, like, I love helping you. I love, together with people that I thought would be beneficial to you, and I knew you would be beneficial to them.
Yeah.
So I that's one of the things I think people are really reluctant to do when they start a business. Like, I don't want to bother people, right?
Yeah.
You're not bothering people if you do it right. You know, if you do
Exactly.
it with, you know, that you can be helpful to them. So you are not particularly outgoing, right? You're kind of an introverted person. And
yeah. How'd you know?
oh yeah, you kind of had to get over that though. You have to overcome that introversion. Now you probably went back and just crashed and hid in your room after we toured the exhibit hall of VMX. But to be to do what you do, you have to be out in the world, and you have to be willing to do that. And the same thing for
Absolutely.
me. So what was the value of networking and helping you get, to where you are right now, 1 year out from starting your business, and, it's self-sustaining, it's growing. How did that network play into that?
Yeah, I think really on a personal level, it really challenged me to engage with other people. I mean, obviously, it's easy to hide behind the screen of what I do and just continue to type and talk to people that way, but actually, like, having meaningful conversations was definitely a key thing. But really just having that challenge and that hurdle to constantly reach out to people, even if it's just to say, hey, how can I help you, has been huge. But on a business level, I really think it just kind of goes back to continuing to serve people, because social media, how I think of it, is really customer service just on a whole different level. And I find it really meaningful to treat it like I'm serving others and stuff. Like, what can I get from you? I really want to put it back out there. I just really enjoy helping, coaching people, and mentoring people. That's, I think, really what it all comes down to.
Well, I believe that you're right, that when you go out into the world to serve other people, then you become successful. And it's one of the reasons that I believe that culture is so important in a veterinary hospital, because we serve the people that are our staff and make it an enjoyable place for them to come to work. And when that happens, they look after your clients. They look after your business for you. And it really makes your life so much easier when the team is engaged and on board and they are well served. It's been a struggle during these periods of time because a lot of teams are shorthanded and the clients are being difficult. I've put together, of course, some pieces of information that hopefully are going to help teams deal with difficult clients a little bit better. We get that out soon. But when looking back, when you were, just deciding to start your own business, what advice would you give somebody who's facing this career decision, who's saying, I've always wanted to be or do, or I feel like I have an idea? How would you coach them into helping, make that leap or make that decision? What would you tell them to do?
Yeah, I actually just had this conversation with someone else who's looking to move on from their practice. And basically what I told her is that, if this is something you really want to do, write out everything that you do in your job right now. Itemize it basically, and really decide if this is something that you would want to do as a career, not just kind of half in, half out. Just write it down, decide if that's what you really want to do, and just do it. The hardest thing is just starting and getting out there. Everything else will come into place. If there's something you're not knowledgeable about or you want to learn more about, there's resources out there to do it. Seek out a mentor if you're not sure on how to find the little things, like how to come up with packages or find connections. Just start. That's the biggest thing, I would say.
Well, so just for fun, we all have goof, right? What was the biggest goof you ever made on social media or when you were starting? See, I don't know the answer to this question, Cheyanne.
Well, no. That's a good question. I gotta think. It's gotta be back from my early years, because I'm super, like, it's one of my biggest fears of posting the wrong thing on my page or someone else's. That's a good question. I haven't thought about it.
I threw you a ringer. I'm sorry.
You did.
Yeah.
No, this is
Yeah,
good.
sorry.
I don't really know, because I don't post too much on my personal page anymore.
Uh-huh.
I think it's got to be just my epic typos, like typing the wrong thing. Like, I'm sure that's happened so many times.
I was thinking about that for myself, because autocorrect and I have an ongoing battle. And
Yes.
I look at that and I know that I typed it correctly, and but I'm doing this pretty fast. And I look back in the post, I went, that is not what I said. And then, I could edit my own post, but then sometimes I can't edit the other stuff that comes out there. Because I really I'm the person who checks email 3 times for grammatical errors. And, you know, because you know how anal I am about spelling and stuff, and correct grammar. So it just drives me crazy when stuff goes out that's not perfect into social media. And every now and then I go, that doesn't even make any sense. But, it's funny how your mind works, because I'm sure that, and I can always tell if someone is speaking into their phone to make a post.
Yes.
Because you're like, okay, let me figure this out. I actually had a client who used to send me text messages, and she always spoke into her phone. And some of the stuff, 90% of it I could figure out, but every now and then I have to go back and go, now I'm not exactly sure what you meant about that. And she would, I'll be talking to my phone. And she would break down and type something. So, it's just that checking, double checking, triple checking kind of deal when you're going to put something out there into the world. And I think we all learn from failure, right? So we learn from these mistakes that we make to not trust that autocorrect is not going to sneak in the back door and change our words.
Absolutely.
And in doing like medical stuff and the stuff we talk about, it really doesn't understand our language. So there's a lot of interesting combinations of things, I guess, that autocorrect throws out there at us. So what's really your favorite thing to do when you're talking about social media and all the analytical part of it, and coming up with like marketing plans and being, you're so organized. I wish I could just have you stand over my shoulder and go, now Debbie, you need to do this, you need to do this, because you have this whole month planned out, and I just go through and check my post off. So what's your favorite thing to do in marketing? Because you're artistic, obviously. That's how your mind is creating all this stuff.
Yeah. I think really coming up with the strategy and putting all the pieces together. It really used to be just the content creation, but now I have found people who are even better than I am at it. So I have hired that out, and I have an amazing team. But I think really just the strategy, figuring out how it all comes together. It's just a giant puzzle to me, and I love that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and some of the things that you and I together have done is launch new veterinarians into practices. And I think that's a lot of fun, and it's something that we have done together, and we kind of build up this energy for the surprise when the new vet comes. And we start this marketing campaign about a month before they even show up in the door, so that by the time they walk in, everybody kind of knows something about them, and they feel very comfortable. Because I can remember I worked the front desk a lot in practices, and anytime you hired a new doctor, the clients were like, well, I don't know who that is. I don't want to see older doctor. And that doctor swamped and said the whole point of hiring somebody was having some help.
Yeah.
So social media has done a wonderful job of creating comfort with new veterinarians, new staff members when they come on the team. And that strategy, we're getting ready to do it again. This one is a big secret. We can't even tell this doctor's name because she's local until she walks in the door. So we're going to, build that excitement up before that even happens. Do you see a lot of practices doing that? I mean, because I talk about it all the time, but I don't see it a lot out there.
Yeah, it really depends on the hospital culture. I haven't seen it a whole bunch lately, but I really, really like how we've done it so far. Like,
Yeah.
It's kind of unique right now with everything happening.
Yeah.
But.
Well, that's kind of the way my brain works too. So we have two artistic people who like marketing. This is probably one of my favorite parts of being a consultant is the marketing part of it.
Yeah.
And building the image for the hospital, building that brand image. What advice would you give practices who are, or even people who are looking to build their personal brand, to kind of thinking about that strategy that you were talking about and how you kind of build that brand out there for yourself or for your practice? What do you think about?
Yeah. So it's actually interesting that you asked me that because Danielle and I are working on a project like that. And I can definitely share more information if you guys like to know more. But really just practicing some self-reflection on really what you want to share with people. What kind of value can you bring to them? And just being consistent and present on social media. That's like the two biggest things that I've seen and I've done, and I've seen great results from it. And not being afraid to connect with other people on social media. Because I think we often forget in marketing is that on social media, we're there to build connections. We're not there to make a sale or anything. Yes, that's the ultimate goal, but really you're going to have more success if you just connect with people and build relationships.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, in my career as a veterinary practice manager, one of the things that we worked very hard on was building relationships with our clients. And you have opportunity one or two or maybe three times a year, maybe more if they're coming in to buy food, to build those relationships. But with the ability of digital marketing, we can keep the relationship going throughout the year rather than that one or two times that client's going to walk in our door. And that relationship is incredibly important to keep that client bonded to our hospital when there are so many other companies trying to pull them away from our home. So if you make it feel like home, if you make it hospitable, if you keep the connection going, and if you're constantly telling the story of your practice, then people are much more likely to stay with you, and there's less turnover.
Exactly.
So do you recommend talking about the team members too? We talk a lot about just, it's puppy kitten pictures, but in education, but I think people should talk about their staff.
Absolutely.
And tell the story of the staff. Yeah.
Absolutely. Anyone who has hands on the patient, on the pet, any contact with the client, I believe they should be highlighted and part of the story because they're part of the culture, they're part of the team, they're part of they make the whole world go round in the clinic.
Yeah, they do. So do you have any final words of wisdom to tell people who are, maybe they're just stuck in their job, maybe they got to a point like you were where it was about as far as you could go in that practice and you were not going to be allowed. I mean, I don't know the size of the practice, but, to have a full-time social media manager, you have to be a pretty big practice to have that position, I think. And then right now, here's something else I wanted to ask you, because we are in the position where most practices have too much business. They are working so hard, they have too much business. What kind of messaging are you sending out now, or are you recommending to send out now during COVID and the craziness? I mean, people are booking 2, 3, 4 weeks out for wellness stuff, and they're just backed up, and the ERs are overflowing. What's the difference in the message?
Yeah, really, it kind of just goes back to keeping that connection, keeping that personal tie with them. And so what we've been doing is just sharing some facts, sharing some tips, putting some fun games out on social media, sharing education, just stuff to keep keeping pet owners connected with us and letting them know that we still do care, even though it's kind of crazy in the practice right now. But we are still here. We're still here to provide you with resources, help you when we can. And really the beautiful thing about social media is you can tweak it to fit the vibe and the culture, or keep saying culture, and the clinic, and to adjust it to fit your needs. If you need more appointments, advertise for more appointments and encourage people to book appointments, vaccines, whatever you want, or just rein it back in a little bit and post some great content to help people out.
Yeah. When you talk about advertising, are you coaching people to pay for maybe Facebook ads or Google ads? I know Google ads are kind of pricey, but Facebook seems to be a pretty cheap way to get our message out there.
Yeah. I think it really depends on your goals for marketing. I do suggest boosting some posts, making sure that you're getting some reach, because once we are out of COVID era, clients are still going to be there. It might cut back, it might fluctuate, who knows, but your clients are still going to be there, and you're still going to want pet owners to come in and do business with you. So being present still, even if it's just minimally, just be sure you're still on top of mind regardless.
Right. Okay, this was enlightening, and I just think you're an inspiration to a lot of people who are, working in practice. And a lot of the feedback that we hear is, oh, this is, there's nowhere to go in this position, or I'm really burnt out being an assistant or a technician. Now what can I do? And I think you've marked a path here that says this is something that you can do. And I look at myself too. I was a practice manager for 23 years, and then moved into owning my own business and being a consultant and traveling, all over the country and doing what I do. So there is a path, but you've got to be willing to, get the education for one thing. And just like you said, you study, you learn, and then being able to get yourself networked appropriately out there in the world and taking the risk. Because if you are so risk averse and worried about failure, you're never going to succeed, because we all learn by failure and we all succeed by failure. And it's okay, it is okay to screw up and then let autocorrect make some goofy things in your feed.
Absolutely.
And still be the social media maven that you are.
Exactly. It's just all about taking that leap of faith and making sure you just keep charging on, regardless of the challenges, because there will be challenges.
There always will be. As long as we live, there will always be something else, and something else, and something else. Whether it's in your personal life, or dealing with a pandemic, or war, or hurricanes, or floods, or tornadoes, or there's something. There's always something. And we just need to, look at how people manage through that and realize that it can be done. Even through the most difficult challenges in life, it can be done. And we just keep moving forward, one foot in front of the other. Looking backwards is not helpful. Only looking forward and see, learn from your mistakes. Well, Cheyanne, thanks again for joining me today, and I appreciate your time. I also want people to know how to get in touch with you at HashWag Marketing. So will you share how they can get in touch with you if they want their own personal guru like I have to help them?
Yeah, definitely. I don't have an official website set up yet, but if you want to email me at Cheyanne at hashwagmarketing.com, and I'll put that in the show notes for you, Debbie. Or if you want to reach out to me at Instagram at the.hashwag, I'm there too.
All right. Thanks, Cheyanne. Well, you have a great rest of your day, and I appreciate your time. And I hope that everybody gets inspired by your story And I am looking forward to having it up and posted soon on the Bend. And so, Cheyanne, get to work.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.